Hello, my name is Gonzalez, and today I'll be talking about price gouging, whether or not it's wrong or a free enterprise in a capitalistic system. So in the United States, we have what is called a free enterprise system, where it is an economy where products, services, and prices are market oriented. So if your barber tells you that a haircut is worth $30, then it's worth $30. Um, it's an economy where businesses are free of certain government restraints, and prices may go up and down due to the supply and demand of that product or service. Some examples of a free enterprise may be seen at a sushi restaurant, and would be when the restaurant would charge a market price for something like a lobster because it's not in season. Sometimes they won't even show you the price; they'll just say it's the market cost. Another example you might see is when you go to your butcher and the price for beef is higher than what you expected. And that may be because he purchased the beef for resale at a higher cost because the cost to raise livestock was higher that year or that season. Another example that we might see is when a soccer team wins a championship and now their jerseys are $5 more than any other team's jersey or any other kind of apparel for that matter. In a free enterprise system, however, there will be a possibility for what is called price gouging. Price gouging is when a seller spikes the price of a good, service, or commodity. There are federal laws which make it illegal to price gouge when it's talking about fuel, um, but that is the only one I was able to find. Um, there are state regulations and state laws which do prevent price gouging. However, uh, 34 states out of the 51, if you include Puerto Rico, actually have state laws against it. And there is a list, if you get into my works cited page, where you will find each state's local uh, state laws for price gouging. So some examples of price gouging. We've all heard of examples where scalpers charge thousands of dollars for tickets to see a basketball team play. I actually was a victim of price gouging myself, where a band that I wanted to see, uh, they played a show in Tulsa. The band Tool. They don't play very many shows anymore. However, they were playing in Tulsa, um, and the price of the tickets, it wasn't bad. I nearly bought a ticket, but I balked and I did not purchase the ticket right away. I figured I would purchase it the next day. I regret that to this day because that show sold out. And I checked again for the next couple of days, and before too long, the tickets were on sale again. However, they were no longer $50; they were $300 and up. Um, this is a crazy increase. It's a several 100% increase of something that truly, it's a matter of perspective whether it was worth that much. So, to me, in my pocketbook at that time, it was not worth that much, though. Um, There are many other price gouging examples, and we could go on for days talking about them. I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. Um, in 2011, there was an investigation over Avenir Pharmaceuticals and URL Pharma Incorporated. Um, this investigation I do include in my works cited page, but just a kind of brief synopsis. Avenir makes a drug that was used to treat emotional outbursts. At one point in time, it cost $20 per month. However, they made a new drug, and the new drug costs $600 per month. This is a little worse than my rock band that I wanted to see because this is something that people need, and now they're paying unrealistic costs to stay medicated. URL Pharma actually fell in to this investigation because they sell a product called Colchicine, and it is used to treat gout. Um, its active ingredient has been used since the 1800s and costs 9 cents per pill. However, their drug costs $4.84 per pill. They fell into this investigation because this product was actually removed from the market in 2010 by the FDA because it was a part of a broader initiative against marketed drugs. And the whole point of the committee was to question whether or not the pricing was ethical. And, I have to agree that, when these companies are able to increase in the hundreds of percent over just a small amount of time, it's not right for the consumer to have to foot that bill. There have been efforts to curb price gouging. Um, Price gouging does actually gain a lot of negative attention, especially in non-competitive markets. So we spoke about a couple of gout medication and emotional outburst medication. Another one we may be familiar with was when the EpiPen makers increased the price of the product again in the hundreds of percent just for one treatment that somebody needs to stay alive because, and again, it's putting the weight on the consumer, and it's no longer a fair transaction, which does start to get into the moral and ethical issue. Maryland's state law about price gouging has actually required the attention of the Attorney General to be notified if a price increases over 50% in more than 50% in a given year. So is it price gouging or is it free enterprise? Price gouging, again, is when buyers are in vulnerable predicaments and they have been deemed unjust and morally reprehensible. They've been condemned by consumers and legislators, and gougers are acting contrary to virtue and to the welfare of society by exploiting disadvantaged consumers and forcing them to pay high prices for bare necessities. Again, some of these things, we need to function, we need to work. Advocates of this practice would argue that the suppliers and consumers are going to arrive at their own agreement about the price of the goods, and this would maximize social welfare, preserving freedom and promoting virtue. Again, they would argue that it's encouraging a transaction, it's encouraging an interaction between the agent and the consumer, and thus creating a larger social bond in society. There are those that would argue that there is one fundamental responsibility of an agent, and that's to set a price that is just and that it be guaranteed a proper reward, that being a sale. This would prevent the exploitation of consumers because, again, they're setting a fair price. They're not pricing it to make $1 million off of one sale. And they're not being unethical at that point because they're pricing it to, so that way it's a mutually beneficial transaction. I picked utilitarianism as the ethical theory that I would lump this under. This theory would hold that what is good for most is good for all. That fair transactions would create solid relationships between the agents and consumers. So, hey, I like eating pizza, and it's great for the local pizza shop to sell me a affordable pizza and a good quality product. For this to be true, all parties must agree that the transactions in the market are fair. Again, if the pizza around the corner is going to cost $50, then maybe I'm going to be looking for another pizza to purchase, and maybe they won't be in business for very long. And in certain markets, this is appropriate. In fine goods, in your jewelries and your vehicles, that makes sense. In foods, again, if people are paying thousands of dollars for truffles, and I get that makes sense. And in your dwellings, in your homes, again, that makes sense because There's a lot of things that go into it that may be a little abstract. However, there are certain things, like I mentioned earlier with the fuel crisis, that should be regulated by a federal law. Um, Again, agents must follow a code of moral ethics and not allow the scales to be tipped in either party's favor. Otherwise, this starts to become an unethical system. As for my questions for the class and regarding a free enterprise, I must ask first and foremost, do you think that price gouging is an acceptable practice? Second question, in a society like we have in the United States, is free enterprise functioning as it should? And the third question, should federal law rule over the free enterprise system as we use it today? And if so, what industries should it have governing rights over? This is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to your discussion questions. Thank you.